Bonnie, you had some stuff that you wanted to share about summer. I'm dying to hear.
You can just stop me when we're out of time. This is
Okay.
more stuff from my favorite school district clearinghouse, LRP.
And I want to say we had several people write in over the weekend and say, can she share that site? I just want to make sure everybody knows that you can't share that site, that it's not open to the public. So this
Well,
is,
it's a subscription service.
there we
So
go.
you can get it, but it's expensive.
Okay. So I just wanted to be clear because people were like, why aren't you sharing the site? That's why.
I wish.
Yeah.
Okay. Anticipating a lot of IEP meetings this fall, find out how to get organized. So this is obviously guidance for folks who are school district administrators and they're preparing for fall. While most districts have been conducting virtual IEP meetings during the pandemic, many may not be prepared for the high number of meetings that will likely have to take place this fall. Now it's like Bonnie going, see, I told everybody. Districts are going to have to think now about what will need to be accomplished in the meeting and what additional data will be necessary, said Peter Mayer, a school attorney at Shipman and Goodwin LLP in Hartford, Connecticut. Make sure parents are part of that discussion and that planning process. Follow these tips to prevent disagreements and delays regarding IEP meetings in the fall. 1, watch your language. Be mindful of the wording you use when you are speaking with parents about setting up future IEP meetings. You don't want them to think you're prioritizing students with higher needs ahead of their own students. Their own children. We should be planning for all students. Start exploring the primary purposes of the meeting now. For example, if an IEP meeting is needed for a triennial evaluation, recognize you can reach out to parents for their input now and see if they would agree to continue the student's current programming or develop an IEP amendment without the IEP meeting. Quote, there may be some flexibility to reconvene later after reevaluation has been completed in the fall. So in other words, there's a big problem for people who have tries coming up. Most districts have not been doing face-to-face assessments. I've said on the show before that if the district owes you a face-to-face assessment and they are refusing to give you one in a timely fashion, you can try asking for them to pay for a private. Focus on meaningful participation. Whoops. Yeah, no, that's right. Focus on meaningful participation. It's likely that IEP meetings will continue to take place in a virtual setting in the fall because of social distancing guidelines. So working with parents on how meetings will fit into their schedules will be paramount. Sending parents documentation that will be reviewed at the IEP meeting ahead of time will also matter now more than ever. Also discuss with parents how certain staff members may not be available in the fall, as they have been in the past to participate in meetings. If students are still learning remotely or are participating in a hybrid learning model, you may need to discuss when team members can be excused from meetings or can provide written notes ahead of time, he said. Don't wait until the fall. Whatever you do, don't wait until the fall to start discussing this with parents, Mayer said. The key is to be upfront and communicate on an ongoing basis. Check in and provide updates and seek input about parent concerns so that they feel they're included. Hopefully that will encourage some level of trust and patience from parents. Communicate with the student's parents about the information you have and the information you need, Mayer said. If there's sufficient information to hold a meeting and develop a student's IEP now, then that's worth considering to reduce the backlog for the fall. Next point, or are we out of time?
No, we've got a couple of minutes. You got about 3 minutes left.
Okay. Don't forget IDEA requirements when conducting virtual IEP meetings. IEP teams in the Crane, Texas Independent School District have engaged in virtual IEP team meetings using the Zoom app since March 16th. Quote, it's almost more deliberate and more focused being online, said Shelly Garcia, the district special education teacher. A lot of times in person, there's sidebar talking. That is so true. It's disorganized and it has a tendency to go on longer than it needs to. The Zoom meeting is more deliberate. Everybody takes their turns. Just remember that you must ensure meaningful participation, parent participation, regardless of the way you conduct the IEP meeting. Call the parents before the remote meeting to lay the groundwork and step up the level of trust a notch, Garcia says. Also take these steps. Send prior written notice. Address the language needs, which has to do with interpreters. Show the working IEP as you go, meaning projected on the Zoom screen. Afford parents a consistent voice. Make sure parents are not muted at any point during a meeting. Check in regularly to ensure they've not been dropped from the meeting or are having technical difficulty. Constantly ask them if they have any questions or concerns. We want them to give their input as freely as anybody else in the online meeting. They should be just as integrated into the online meeting as they would be into our traditional meetings in person. Review the meeting minutes. Go over the minutes of the virtual meeting with everyone at the end and ensure everyone is in agreement and the administrator reads the assurance as she would in a traditional IEP meeting, Garcia said. Then, when possible, have parents submit remote signatures. Anybody been getting that yet? I have. If not possible, seek their verbal agreement and write down that they participated by phone and what they said. Then email and mail everything to the parents. There has to be a level of trust that the school is inputting what the parents say, she said. Okay, and then it goes on to talk about other things, which I'm stopping myself.
Yes. We've been hearing from people that the electronic signature thing is a little bit of a hiccup and a nightmare, and that sometimes they feel like they're being told by a person who's at an administrative assistant level that they have to have the actual signature and that they won't take an electron. I've heard this from 3 different parents, that somebody who wasn't authorized to give them a yes was giving them a no about the electronic signature, and that they were having to say to them, can you please go talk to someone else because you clearly don't know what you're talking about.
What is the issue? You're just signing for attendance.
No, but about other things, that there have been other school related things that I just have been hearing from parents that the electronic signature has been a headache.
Okay.
Not specifically at the IEP, but with other stuff.
Oh.
So, I don't know if we want to like address that at some point, but I've heard that there's a little bit of.
Can I give a shameless plug for something and I make no money
Yes,
from it?
absolutely.
Let's see if I can show
We're
you.
all about shameless plugs here.
Well, here's a shameless plug that has. This is a Doxy scanner, which changed my life. COVID.
There we go.
Costs less than $100. You can scan documents easily. You can import them to your computer and then email documents. So that's one way to deal with your signature problem. Obviously, there is a larger question for people who don't have access to technology at all and can't even give a signature. But I think if you're, in the old days, I used to say to people, hey, if you're in the special ed business, parent, you better get a fax machine. Well, that's the same is true if you want to, if you want to be able to hold these people's feet to the fire, you need to have a way to, send documentation to them. And sometimes email is fine, but if you have to, let's say you need to print out a signature page for your IEP and attach a consent, how are you going to get it to them? Well, you can have a little app on your phone. There's one called Tiny Scanner, but I just don't find that they're nearly as good as this. And now that I'm like living in this virtual reality, I scan all my IEP notes if they're handwritten and I upload them to a file. And you can get rid of a lot of paper too. So, consider investing in this. And was really easy to set up. I am like not a, tech person. And I feel very much better than I was like, how am I going to get this, signed signature page to somebody? So,
Autism Speaks has a thing that it gives to parents when they're newly diagnosed. It's called the 100-day kit, and they have it translated into like some ridiculous 88 languages or something like that. And one of the pieces of advice that was in it, I don't know if it's still there, but it was, if there's one thing you want to invest in, it's a scanner. Now they recommend getting the type of scanner where you can plop down 40 pages and it'll scan it all itself. I personally, I love yours because that's great for receipts too, but I know
also and you can take it to your school district and copy stuff. But yeah, it's not convenient for,
But I will tell you that, one of the things that we got for, I want to say it was less than $40 at one of a big box store, and there are many of them, and you can order these things online now, is just a very inexpensive computer printer that has the ability to scan as well. And honestly, $40. And yeah, the ink costs more than the printer does down the road, but we find that we scan stuff on it so that we're not printing all that much on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and print in grayscale, pay less in ink. But I think that these are, no matter what, there's a pile of paperwork that has to be dealt with. And I think that the parents who have the lower stress are the parents who know where their paperwork is and can access it at a minute's notice. And having like this last week alone, Bonnie, we had 4 different questions that came in about people who had gotten a diagnosis maybe 20 years ago and they didn't save the paperwork and the school didn't keep the paperwork, and now they have, you know, adult children and there's no documentation of ever having a diagnosis. Get your paperwork scanned and safe and on the cloud so that you can always find it.
Yeah.
It's
I
important.
just, I think you need to treat this project of your children as seriously as you treat your job. And at your job, you would have, pens and papers and paper clips and a place to work and,
Yep.
a file storage. And yeah, I mean, when I was doing this, I had 2 huge boxes of paper, because we didn't have other alternatives then. And my whole thing was, God, I guess someday I'm going to go through all this and like see what it says. But at some point, it all disappeared. I have no idea what happened to it.
Oh, how horrible. My plan from the beginning was that I was going to write a book and that I wanted documentation because I figured people were going to sue me when I wrote the book and said what happened. And so I kept,
School district.
so I kept everything. And I told them all, I said, I'm writing a book. I'm keeping this because I'm going to do the tell all. And I'm going to say, you said this.
No wonder you had such good services.
But that was my thing always, was that I was like, the book is coming out and it's going to be a tell all. And what's funny is that instead it turned into a stage show, but I still have every email. I have every piece of paper because, one day I'm going to be overrun by it. But I figured when people were suing me, I wanted to be able to go, nope, it's right here. I have the email where she said this. And that's how I looked at it. Pack rat. Anyway, we're past out of time. Bonnie, I appreciate you so much. You are amazing. Tell them again about Tollner Law Offices.
Tollner Law Offices is an aid attorney firm in San Jose, Los Angeles, and Irvine, and we do special education, regional center eligibility, disability discrimination, and all other things that pertain to having a child with a disability.
Thank you for being on our team and on our side, Bonnie. We appreciate you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.